So now we have our September 2 to September 9, the week's news in Asia and between Philippines and China. But of course, the dominating development in Asia and the world today is the Korean Peninsula. And just to highlight the very strong opposition of the South Korean people themselves to the deployment of the American THAAD, thermal high altitude aerial defense. Okay, and so this is the first report, and I think we have a video from Xinhua. And by the way, our interview with Carol Ong was from China Radio International. I forgot to credit them. But now, let's go to Xinhua's report. Violent clashes erupt between missile defense protesters and police in South Korea. This is from the Telegraph, the printed report that we summarized. But the video will be from Xinhua. Dozens of people were injured in clashes between South Korean protesters and police Thursday as the U.S. added more launchers to the high-tech missile defense system it installed in a southern town to better cope with the North Korean threats, according to this report. In South Korea, thousands of police officers in riot gear swarmed some 400 protesters who had been occupying a road leading to the site where the terminal high-altitude area defense system known as THAAD is installed in the rural town of Seongju. 6 police officers and 32 other people were injured, none seriously, in the clashes, said a fire department official in Seongju who spoke on condition of anonymity, citing office rules. Several U.S. vehicles, including trucks carrying payloads covered in the black sheets that appeared to be launchers, had been seen heading towards the site. I don't think we have our video prepared. Do we have it prepared? Okay, let's move on to the next. There it is. Let's roll it a little so we can see how militant the anti-terminal high-altitude aerial defense missile deployment is. This was reported throughout the whole world. It is good that people around the world get to know that this missile defense system is being opposed and being imposed on the South Korean government. The South Korean President Moon Jae-in initially, upon winning his election, put a stop to the deployment. However, pressure from both the United States and, of course, from the new missile tests and nuclear tests in North Korea apparently has compelled President Moon Jae-in to continue to allow the full deployment of the American THAAD missiles, to the great dissatisfaction of China and Russia, who believe this is not just a defensive deployment, but actually a deployment to prevent the second strike from either Russia or China in case the U.S. launches a first strike. Now let's go to more domestic Philippine-China positive news. The DPWH and China signs a deal for the Davao Expressway study. We thank Business World for this report. The Department of Public Works and Highways and a representative from the Chinese government signed an agreement for a feasibility study on the proposed Davao City Expressway project. DPWH Secretary Mark A. Villar and Chinese Economic and Commercial Counselor Jin Yuan on Tuesday signed the minutes of discussion for the grant deal. The grant, this is not a loan, will cover socio-economic and economic analysis, an environmental impact assessment, a social impact assessment, an engineering geological survey, a topographical survey, an evaluation of the project site's seismic safety, a hydrological analysis, and a feasibility evaluation of the proposed expressway. When completed, the 24.5 billion peso expressway is expected to decongest traffic in Davao City and ease access to Santa Ana Port and other suburban areas. It will be designed to complement ongoing and proposed projects for further enhancement of access to the city and its surrounding areas to encourage an increase in economic activity and productivity. Thanks to Patricia, Paolo, C. Marcelo for this report. And we move on to another encouraging news, fruit of the independent foreign policy and pivot to China of President Duterte. China-Philippines joint venture to build solar panels nationwide. From the Manila Bulletin, Chinese clean energy developer and operator ET Solar and Philippine Energy Solutions provider Vivant Corporation entered into a joint venture agreement to develop solar power plants that will provide lower electricity rates to the end user. Through the joint venture from firm ET Vivant Solar, EVC, the two energy companies will complement and expand their respective expertise in technology, project development, operations, power generation, and retail electricity supply. EVC will be dedicated to providing turnkey solutions through power purchase agreements covering every step of a solar plant's life cycle, helping businesses secure savings on electricity payments and insulating them against price surges for over 20 years, the two companies said in a joint statement. And now we move on to the BRICS, the recent BRICS event. Xiamen Declaration, second golden decade of BRICS begins. This is from the BRICS Post. BRICS leaders met on Monday to forge a consensus on trade, protectionism, North Korea, and climate change, among other international hotspots. After intensive consultations, the final communique, the Xiamen Declaration, notes the need, quote, to redress North-South development imbalances, unquote, and to, quote again, firmly oppose protectionism, unquote. Quoting again, we recommit to our existing pledge for both standstill and rollback of protectionist measures, and we call upon other countries to join us in that commitment, the communique says. The BRICS meet focused on globalization, free trade, migration, and terrorism related issues that have become more contentious since Donald Trump entered the White House half a year ago, promising an, quote, American first, unquote, approach. The five BRICS leaders, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Michel Temer, Jacob Zuma, and Narendra Modi, pledged to, quote, usher in the second golden decade of BRICS cooperation and solidarity. BRICS are also looking to establish a BRICS energy research cooperation platform. On global crisis zones like Syria and North Korea, the bloc was unanimous in its response. BRICS nations said they, quote, welcome the creation of the de-escalation areas in Syria, which contributed to the decrease in the levels of violence and generating positive momentum and conditions for meaningful progress in the peace talks, unquote, under the aegis of the United Nations. South Africa will host the next annual BRICS summit next year. And finally, China's Xi Jinping says BRICS must promote open world economy. This is from Reuters, which we summarize. From Xiamen, China, the BRICS group of emerging economies must promote trade liberalization and an open world economy, Chinese President Xi Jinping said at a business meeting on Sunday at the start of the three-day summit held in southeastern China. The heads of state from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa have gathered in the city of Xiamen through Tuesday, giving China as host its latest chance to position itself as a bulwark of globalization in the face of U.S. President Donald Trump's America First agenda. BRICS leaders will be joined by, or have been joined by, observer countries like Thailand, Mexico, Egypt, Guinea, and Tajikistan, and officials will discuss the BRICS Plus, or have discussed the BRICS Plus plan to expand the bloc to new members. Some have questioned the relevance of BRICS and China's commitment to its new development bank in light of Xi's own Global Belt and Road Development Initiative and the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, but set up in 2015 as an alternative. The bank was set up in 2015 as an alternative to the World Bank. The Shanghai headquartered NDB was seen as the first major BRICS achievement after the group came together in 2009 to press for a bigger say in the post-World War II financial order created by Western powers. The NDB's president on Friday said it aims to make about $4 billion in loans next year. To date, it has invested in 11 projects, lending $1.5 billion in 2016 and $2.5 billion in loans set for this year. And we will be discussing more of BRICS and its impact on the new world order, or on the present world order to become the new world order in our Philippine-China focus. So we are now taking this break, and we will have Rod Kapunan join us in a discussion based on his column, BRICS and the Western Economic Order.